we're ready to start. Vamos a comenzar con nuestra siguiente speaker del día de hoy. Así que pido un aplauso para recibir en este escenario a nuestra querida Ana de IGA y también del Retail Learning Institute. So, bienvenida.
Thank you so much for being here. Our partner, the American Public University, is the #1 online university in the U.S. Gave us some goodies, and in there we have a notebook. So it's a great way of learning. We're going to be talking about training. Take it out. There is a pen associated with it, so you can take your notes and get that knowledge that you're going to take back home. Also in there, you're going to see the flyer for IGA and some of the information of what the programs that we offer. So I'm not going to burden you with a selling pitch today. What I want to do is share with you what the impact of training is. These are ideas that you're going to be able to take home and work with your teams to develop really good and effective training. So we're going to start with a very ambitious agenda. I want to show you the impact of training in individuals. I'm going to show you how to calculate how much it does cost having poorly trained employees, because there is a serious cost associated with it. I'm going to give you 5 tips to have a really resilient training program. And then we're going to learn a little bit about neuroscience, and that's going to help you in your daily lives on how you get that learning more permanent. And finally, I'm going to show you what the Institute does. We are a not-for-profit organization. We do online training for supermarkets. Everything that we do is really tailored for the food retail industry. So when we are looking at training, oops. It's not picking it up. No, maybe in the... Technical difficulties that are going to be solved in a minute. When we provide learning to people, we can see them grow from the little caterpillar, and into becoming really butterflies that can fly on their own. Malcolm Knowles tells us, and I love this quote, that learning is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. When you teach people things, they go well above beyond where they would have gone originally. So I'm going to share with you the story of a cashier that was on fire. And this was the moment that I realized that I wanted to stay in the Institute because we were changing lives. So on the first month that I was at the Institute, I received this call from a lady that had found out that we had a course for cashiers. And she called and she says, well, can I get access to it? So I called the boss of the lady and I asked her, him, would you mind if I give her access? And he says, sure, she's interested, let her learn. So I called her back, I set her up, I showed her how to navigate the system, and I let her go. A week later, I go in to check because we have a learning management system, so I can see exactly what she was doing. And I was so pleasantly surprised that she not only did a 5-hour cashier course, but she did the bagger, she did customer service, she did safety. So I called her back immediately and I'm like, wow, you really surprised me. You did way more than what I was expecting. So I asked her, what really motivated you to go in and do training? And her words really moved me. She said to me, I never thought that my job was important enough for somebody to create a course. So that tells us that we need to take care of our people, we need to show them a path, and people who are really interested are going to grow and develop. So the story doesn't end there. She calls me a year later and said, well, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I printed all my certificates. I'm moving up to a different state, and I'm going to take my certificates hoping that I can get a better job where I'm going. And I wish her well. She left, and about 3 years later, she calls me back. She not only came back to where she was working, she became the manager of the store where she started as a cashier 5 years later. So that is the power of transformation of training. Not everybody is receptive, but the ones that are really hungry for it, we need to feed it, and we need to keep those people in our fold. So it's not just that experience. Research tells us that 68% of employees think that training is the most important benefit that they can have. And 93% of employees say that they will stay in their companies if the company is investing on them. And actually, training is the most visible investment that you can do besides pay. So we want to make sure that we spend the time thinking about training and how we can develop our associates. The number one complaint that I hear, and I've been doing this for 19 years, I've seen all sorts of organizations. Everybody ends up in the same place. Well, I have all this training, I have to pay payroll hours, it's going to cost me to do this training. But that's the wrong way of looking at this. Training is not a cost operation, it's really an investment in your people. So the right question that you have to ask is, can I afford having in my people, in my store, people that are poorly trained? How much are they going to cost you? And the numbers are staggering. I did some research this year because I was doing a similar presentation, and I was like, I want to really find out how much does it cost to have a poorly trained person. So we're basically throwing money down the drain. Anybody wants to guess how much percentage of your sales go into covering the mistakes and the errors from poorly trained employees? Anybody? Any number? Throw it out there. No idea? Well, the reality is that 5 to 15% of your money is going to cover poorly trained employees. So how did we get to this number? Let's calculate. You have the pen and papers, start making your numbers. The first problem is lost sales. When you have poorly trained people, they are not gonna treat their employees, their customers right. So in customer service, they can't differentiate between cilantro and parsley, so they give the customer the wrong product. They can't offer really friendly service, and that's what distinguishes all our stores. So that amounts to 1% of your sales, just to cover the mistakes and the lost sales from employees. To that, you're gonna add what you lose in shrinkage. Product that goes bad, a ham that was left outside and it missed the right temperature and now you have to trash it. Somebody spooned the potato salad with a spoon that had peanut butter because they didn't clean it, and now you have to trash that whole batch. That shrinkage, that waste amounts to 0.5% of your sales. Now to that you add the higher labor costs. Obviously, have you seen those videos of people chopping onions and how fast they do it? Somebody who's properly trained can be so much more efficient. You don't train somebody properly and they're gonna be stumbling with the onion for 2 hours because they don't know how to cut it properly. They can't do it fast enough. So we're having to pay them more time because they're not being efficient at the work. That's 0.25% added to your total cost. Then we're talking about cost of turnover. Every time an employee leaves, and they usually leave because they're frustrated, they don't know what they're doing, they don't feel supported by the company. Every time they leave, every one of them costs you an average of $2,000 per person. That's what it costs you to replace a new employee. In there you put the disruption that they cause to the workflow because now you have one person less, the problems that you have hiring and retraining individuals, and the mistakes that the new person is going to do because they're learning the job. So calculate, depending on what position it is, that number can really skyrocket. Then we have safety and accidents cost. People that don't know what they're doing in our industry can really injure themselves. They can cut themselves, they can cause harm to others. The average claim for an accident is about $5,000. And that is if it is a small claim. When I was at the NGA show earlier this year, a client came to me and she's like, Anna, please, can you add a course on how to use a juicer? And I'm like, sure, we can work on that with you. Why do you need it? And she's like, well, we had somebody who didn't know how to use it, tried to use it, and it ended up shaving 3 fingers. That claim is way above $5,000. So not training our employees properly is costing us money. It is cheaper to train people and avoid these losses than actually it is increasing sales. How do you increase sales from 5% or 10%? That's a lot of effort. Just by fixing training, you get happier employees, you lose less money, and you help people grow, which is the beauty of the whole thing. Now, so we're going off to the races. I'm going to give you 5 tips to help you think about how you train your people. And these are things that I have learned over hundreds of implementations. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's get ready for the race. Tip number 1 is get a driver. You cannot have a program where people do not have who they're going to be responding to. You need to have a learning leader, and that person is in charge of the program. This person performance review needs to be tied to that training. They need to be responsible for it. And the first task of that driver, that learning leader, it's going to be aligning the crew. Training is not something that somebody in an office came up with. training is something that is researched, that is designed to solve problems and to help the company achieve their goals long term. Because we need to train people. If you want to be the #1 store in customer service, we need to train our people with those skills, with that knowledge, and with that, and learning how to do those behaviors. So when you align your crew, everybody has to participate. The executive team is responsible for setting up what the strategy is. Where do we want to be in the next 5, 10 years? The learning leader figures out, okay, what skills we need to develop in our people so we can get there. They need to talk to the managers, and I tell you that middle management level is the key to a successful training program. If they are not on board, they're not going to follow up with the training program. And then you talk to the end users. You were here 3 months, what do you wish you had before so you can be prepared to do your job? Because that's what we ultimately want. So align your team and get the information from all the participants. Number 3, there is a very specific window for learning. It doesn't do any help anybody to train somebody 3 months after they started. The point where people are most open to actually learn is when they have a challenge in front of them. I'm a new hire, I don't want to fail. Whatever you give me to help me succeed, I'm just gonna eat it up. If I'm being promoted to a new position, I want to be prepared to accept that new challenge. So don't miss the window of opportunity. Track and performance, and this is where programs fizzle out. You want to make sure that you have a way to track what's going on in your program. You want to make sure that you understand the path and the cycle of your training, and you have certain checkpoints where you're going to see if people are doing the training, if we are actually moving the needle. You launch an initiative in customer service, and then you don't look at your customer complaints, you're going to be missing the point. So you want to make sure that whatever you're trying to achieve, you take a look at it later, that you have metrics that are going to tell you, well, I'm really getting my goal, or I'm really off. And a training program is a live program. People are changing, we're dealing with human beings, competition is changing, so a good program needs to be revamped. I have some of my clients that have been with us for 3 years, and they are in version 3.0 because they're looking at what's going on and they're adjusting and shifting to keep their training relevant to what's going on in the organization. Now, here is another pitfall. People do not communicate. A small organization with bad communication loses an average of $400,000 because of poor communication. So those numbers are serious. So you cannot implement a training program that you don't tell people what is the goal, what are going to be the metrics, when am I going to be checking that you have a deadline, what is the timeline for your development. All those things we need to communicate. Use a bulletin board, use your newsletter, have initiatives. This week we're going to concentrate on safety, or this month, the first quarter is dedicated to safety, and all we're going to do is just reinforce that so we can change behaviors. So communicate, communicate, communicate. Now, let's talk a little bit about neuroscience. And it's really interesting how our brain works. Because we can have a great program, but if we don't understand how human beings learn, then we're missing the opportunity. The first thing is, out of everything that I'm saying in here, if at the end of the day you remember 20%, I'm going to do a victory dance. Because that's how our brain works. We have 5 senses that are sending information into our brains through our eyes, our ears, our taste buds, our sensory kinetic motions. The brain has to decide what to keep and what to let go. Because it's like a computer, it will blow up if keeps all the information. At the end of 30 days, you're going to keep about 10% if there's something that really matters to you. So retention is key to learning, to the improvement of performance. So retention is driven by this little curve here. It's an experiment that Ebbinghaus did in the 1800s, and he discovered that we keep about 10% of knowledge after 30 days. This research has been repeated and repeated with new technology. Results are the same because that's how our brain works. How did we combat the forgetting curve? Basically what we do is repetition. When we repeat or we encounter the same content over and over, you're signaling to your brain, this information is important, I'm using it again and again, let me move it from temporary memory into permanent memory. And that's how you really acquire knowledge. So the idea that you're going to sit somebody and explain something 10 minutes and they're going to be great performers on that is never going to happen, because that's not how human beings learn. So we require at least 6 exposures to the same element to make that shift from temporary to permanent memory. So the cool thing is that our brains adapt and we can make new synaptic connections and hooking what we're learning today with what we had, the knowledge that we have from the past. So the brain really builds this network of knowledge, so we don't have isolated points in our brain. We have all this network of ideas and concepts that relate one to another. You might be learning something about how to fix a car, but if you know how to fix a boat, there's going to be knowledge that is going to be transferable, and your brain is going to recognize that and help you. The knowledge is stackable. So what I learned today, if I add some knowledge tomorrow and I keep adding knowledge, that keeps being reinforced, and our brain keeps improving its knowledge and skills. So, how do we increase retention in the Institute? Obviously, this is where I work, and this is how we approach this idea of improving learning through retention. So the first thing we do is we give them content. So this is a little lesson on how do you stock shelves. So let's listen to it. Oops. Did you see? Let's see. My computer is having a meltdown. You just go back. Okay, so we're going to skip the lesson, but basically what we do is we teach them how the labels are laid out, how do you put product, how do you remove the expired product, what you do with the product that you have left over. And once they learn the lesson, then they end up in a challenge. And the challenge is going to tell them, the challenge is coming up. So we have audio? So basically the challenge starts with telling people what they need to do, how long it's going to take them, and then it's going to pose a question. And the question is obviously related to what they just learned. So in here, in this example, they need to accommodate or put in the shelf the salad based on the expiration dates, following the FIFO method. So they get to experience in a virtual world how they need to stack the products using the correct dates. And then the system tells them, okay, you did it right. If you did it wrong, you have to go back and try again until you get it right. And there's a series of challenges. We have 3 in this category. Now we're talking about the dates. What is a best by day? What is a frozen by day? And so on. So we first expose them to the content, then we have them practice, and then the next level is the testing. So in here in testing, they have a series of questions related to what they just learned. They have to answer all the questions. They need to pass with 80% or higher. If they fail the test, they can take it again. And once they complete the test, they can go back at the test and look at what they did right, what they got wrong. And I don't know about you, but I remember every big mistake that I have made. And those things, reviewing what you got wrong, is going to stick in your brain. You're not going to get that question wrong anymore. It's more likely that you will make a mistake on something that you already knew than on something that you have been corrected on. So that is the fourth exposure to learn. And then we have the practice tests. And we know by Ebbinghaus that we need to do exposures, multiple exposures. So what we have done is we have created a separate course that is just the test. And it's more effective to do the test than actually seeing the whole lesson again. Because when you're doing the test, your brain is forced to go back and retrieve that knowledge. If I show you the course again, you're not going to be as connected because you already saw it. And you're going to be in a passive mode. When I'm answering questions, I have to think, I have to be engaged. So that is signaling my brain again. This is important, keep it in permanent memory. So we give them multiple opportunities for retrieval. But now, it doesn't end there. The ideal mode is that even when you have online training, you do a blended program. And obviously, there are things that we teach that are all foundational. There's not going to be a problem or conflict because we concentrate on best practices. But there are many things that you do in your organization that are unique to your organization that we cannot teach. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the basic foundational knowledge, and on top of that, you're going to build the things that are unique to your organization. That makes your training so much more effective and fast. I did a pilot with a group of stores. There were 25 stores. It's a large group. And the pilot was 25 stores. And they told me, the managers, that at the end of using a blended approach to training, they had about 25% of payroll time free that they didn't use because the training moves so much faster. And so basically, you learn the content online, and then you go and practice. Somebody does a demonstration, and you practice with them, and you prove that you can do that task. There's also social learning. You should have a peer or a mentor or somebody that is there to guide you and help you improve. And there's informal learning. You can have a job aid, you can have a manual, you can have a poster on the wall that reminds people how to wash their hands. All those different efforts that you can do in training will really pay off with retention. So you can actually move, if you do a true blended program, you can move retention from 20% up to 90%. So it's worth the time and the effort. So now, let me do the pitch. Let me show you what we do. In the Institute, we have 300 courses in English. We have about 175 in Spanish. We're always translating. Every year we release or update about 75 courses. So we've been doing this since '88, and we only have 300 courses, but this is because we keep refining them and refining them, retiring old stuff, using new technology. We do 4 languages: Spanish, obviously English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Mandarin. We have about 450,000 active users in our platform, and we serve more than 16,000 organizations. And they're not only retailers, they're not-for-profits, they're wholesalers, they're companies that support our industry, that want to know more about supermarket industry. We do about a little more than 25 corporate universities. So these are organizations that want to go above and beyond and we take our system, cut them up, and we can modify it and tailor it for them. I have Rouse's there, Rouse's Markets. They have upwards of 600 courses in our platform. We're in the era of TikTok. Anybody can do a video and show how to do things in the store. Really inexpensive. We got, Harps Learning You. They have a phenomenal leadership program that would cost them thousands of dollars, and now they moved it online. And we're looking forward for, in 6 months, we're gonna get the new data and see how the performance was. We also need to highlight our users have earned more than 6 million certifications. This year alone, in 2024, our users completed 450,000 courses. So people use it, they use it consistently. And this is one of the moments of pride. The industry standard for online training is 40 to 50% completion. Our completion rate is 59. Is 5 times what the standard is. Because when people get to invest in this, they get committed and the employees really appreciate it. So what does make a company decide to join the Institute? These are the highlights. Obviously, it's curated content. Everything that we develop in-house, we have subject matter experts. We tailor it for the industry. When I started working on this, years ago, getting content was really difficult. You needed to read tons of papers and magazines to be able to get an idea here and an idea there. Now we have AI, there is tons of content online. But the problem is that content applicable to us? So what we do is we develop our own content and we tailor it for the industry. Customer service, for example, you go online and you find hundreds of customer service courses and materials. But we tailor it for the industry. We have about 6 specific courses of customer service for the industry. Consistency in training. This is a pain point for anybody who's managing an online training program or a regular training program. You get people to say, to give them an excuse. If you don't have a professional or an outline very strict on how training should be done, any employee can come back to you and say, well, when Susie trained me, she didn't tell me that. So it's not my fault that I messed up. It's because you didn't train me properly. When you're doing online, you know exactly what content they were exposed to, and they take a test and they pass it. So it's not your fault. It's their fault. I mean, they didn't do what they were supposed to do because you have the proof that they were participants. Actually, I had a case in Puerto Rico where this company does ladder training every year. It's part of their required training. Somebody had an accident in a ladder they climbed, he didn't follow procedure. He left the company, turned around and put a lawsuit on the company. The lawyers called me, and it's like, well, you know, how can we prove that we trained? I went, just went in, it took me 5 minutes. I ran a report for that guy, and he has been trained in ladder safety for 5 consecutive years. And I gave them the content, I gave them the test results, lawsuit immediately dismissed. The company had done what they needed to do, and it was the employee's fault. So it's a protection for liabilities. Now, the fact that you're giving them a test, that they know that they're being exposed to content and they need to pass a test, make people think twice. They pay attention because nobody wants to fail. So it assures to you that they are paying more attention than what they would pay if you just put a video. Because they can be thinking about what they were gonna cook tonight. So we want to make sure that the idea that they have a test helps them pay attention more carefully. And on the other hand, when they get a certification, people value it. Like that cashier, that she printed her certificates and she was really happy to take them with her.